beginning of chapter 3, he talks about related matters. And he says, behold, in those days and at that time, chapter 3:1, when I bring back the captives of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations, and I will bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will end in the judgment with them there. On account of my people, my heritage, Israel, on account of my people, my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, they have also divided up my land. Who was that? What is the valley of Jehoshaphat? Jehoshaphat was apparently a known area. Jehoshaphat had been a king of Judah. He was the son of King Asa, son of Rehoboam. And he had close connections to the northern separate kingdom of Israel. Jehoshaphat had aided King Ahab of Israel in his unsuccessful attempt to recapture the city of Ramoth Gilead. Jehoshaphat married his son and his successor, Jehoram, to Athaliah, who was the daughter of Ahab, and Jezebel of Samaria. And Jehoshaphat also joined Ahaziah, the son of Ahab of Israel, in attempts to circumnavigate Africa from the east through the Red Sea and down to the Cape of Good Hope, and then up, that is, from the north to the south on the east side, and then to circumnavigate Cape of Good Hope and the rich Spain. And such voyages were later known according to Herodotus, and he attributes such voyages to the Phoenicians. And Ahab and Jezebel came from Phoenicia. She was a daughter of Tyre. So this shows the historical context of the Bible, and the Bible is an historical source. It's more reliable than anything else. At all events, the name Jehoshaphat can connote God judges. And the scenario depicted here is similar to that of the final battle against Gog and Magog. In the wars of Gog and Magog, Judah and the 10 tribes will have reunited. They will come back together. And they will have divided the Holy Land from the Nile to the Euphrates between them. They will be living in peace with Jerusalem as their capital. And then Gog and Magog from the far north and numerous other peoples, all the rest of the peoples of the earth, will unite and attempt to destroy the returning Israelites. See Ezekiel chapters 38-39. The forces of Gog and Magog will be destroyed. After that, God will establish a new temple and dwell with his people for a period of lasting peace. See Ezekiel chapters 40-48. And according to Yoel, the Almighty will take revenge on the nations who are persecuting the Jews of Judah. And in the exile of Assyria, Judah was also involved. What does it mean he was involved? He was a victim. In fact, most of Judah may have been taken into exile alongside the 10 tribes. You understand that most of Judah may have been taken into exile at the same time with those 10 tribes. So I'll explain, but this is what the sources indicate. Some of the sources. It says in the Bible, 2 Kings 18, chapter 13, in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the fortified cities of Assyria, and he took them. So it says he came up, he invaded Judah. First of all, the Assyrians took away all the 10 tribes. Then, shortly afterwards, they invaded Judah. They tried to conquer Jerusalem. So before they came up and besieged Jerusalem, they captured all the fortified cities. Okay, that's what we know. Captured all the fortified cities and began to besiege Jerusalem. But whilst they were besieging Jerusalem, an angel came down in the night and killed 185,000 of their soldiers, struck them dead, so they left. Before then, they had conquered all the walled cities. And Sennacherib wrote about it. He wrote a record of this on stone. You can see it on the internet. And he says this for the king of Judah, Ezekiel, who had not submitted to my authority. I besieged and captured 46 of his fortified cities. along with many smaller towns, taken in battle with my battering rams. I took as plunder 200,150 people. And he goes on. And he also says that he began the besiege of Jerusalem and wouldn't let anyone out. And the cities and the rest of Judah which he had captured, he gave to Mitinti, king of Ashdod, Padi, ruler of Ekron, and Sili Baal, ruler of king of Gaza. So this inscription is saying that he gave the rest of the Israelites, or the Jews, to the Philistines, which also ties in with what we've been saying. And it's confirmed by this Assyrian Goy, who wrote an inscription about it. And these 200,000 people who he took into exile, that must have been a significant proportion of the population. And he took them into captivity. And he also, the rest of the population, or parts of the rest of the population, he divided amongst the Philistine cities, who were his allies, his servants, his subsidiaries. So if we go from here to Joel chapter 3, and Joel chapter 3, he says, beginning from verse 3, they have cast lots for my people. They have given a boy as payment for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they may drink. Indeed, what have you to do with me? O Tyre, what have you to do with me? O Tyre and Sidon, and all the coast of Philistia. Will you retaliate against me? But if you retaliate against me swiftly and speedily, I will return your retaliation upon your own head. Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my prized possessions. Also the people of Judah and the people of Jerusalem you have sold to the Greeks, that you may remove them far from their borders. So what happened here? So first of all, we have a question. And then we have to see what actually happened. To divine what actually happened, and we have a question that if a good portion of the people of Judah were taken away by the Assyrians into exile, why does no one talk about it? Why is it not emphasized more? Why is all this emphasis on the 10 tribes? And also the most of Judah was taken away, or a good portion of them. So that question we may extrapolate from Nachmanides, Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, 1194-1270. In his book of Redemption, he writes, he quotes this Midrash, the Midrash Seder Olam, saying that the sages said in the Midrash, those who came into the land in the time of Israel, the whole community together numbered 43,360. Okay. Total his names are recorded, have only numbered 30,360. What happened to the missing 12,000? These were those from the other tribes that came up with Ezra. So what they are saying this is a different subject, but it ties in, it gives us an answer to what we're asking. So he's saying that when the Jews, after the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem and took all the Jews into exile, and after 70 years they let them return, or Cyrus of Persia allowed them to return, and they started to come back, and the numbers, the list of the peoples coming back is given in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah, where the total of those returning is given, and the families and the clans and the sub-clans is given from each of the tribe, and from each of the 3 tribes of Judah, of Benjamin, and of Levi. And it gives the numbers from each different section, but there's a disparity of 20% between the total of the numbers of these families and the total number they said returned. So who are these other 20,000? 20%, who are they? So the sages said, Ramban explains it also, that these are people from the other tribes. So what happened here and there, you have hints in the Bible, indications in the Bible, also stands to reason. Also, we even have archaeological findings. If you go to the old city, anyone goes to the old city, they have there's a place there, you have the square, in the square, just beside the square, it was what's known as the burnt house. And you pay a little bit of money and they show you around the house. And what it was, this was a private residence of people who were quite well off, people of culture, and they were once going to do renovations in their home and began to dig down. And they found it was an archaeological site. So they, out of their own money, must have cost a fortune, they brought in professionals and they dug it up and excavated it and they reconstructed it and they found their mikveh, they found their whole house from the time of the, from the time after the Assyrian exile of the 10 tribes. A lot of people from the northern tribe came down and settled in Jerusalem, and Jerusalem increased in size by 1/5 or more. And archaeological indications indicate that the newcomers were peoples from Samaria, from Manasseh, from Ephraim, and others. And and what are some of the signs that they have? Some of the characteristics that these newcomers had. First of all, they liked Egyptian idols, Egyptian pictures, Egyptian furniture. They practiced cremation very often, whereas the Jews of Judah did not. And they still had, doesn't mean they were pagans, but they had still had things that are picked up also in the northern kingdom. So that's a point of interest. At all events, there were people from the 10 tribes who had come to Jerusalem and taken refuge there. And in other ways, different ways, they had become part of the Jewish people. And they are mentioned in the total of those who returned. They are numbered, but the details of their families are not given. Okay, details of the family are not given. So Ramban goes into this in detail. He quotes from different sources. He proves that what I've just said from the Bible. And he says that in effect that the 10 tribes, most of the 10 tribes went into exile and they were destined to fulfill their destiny to give expression to their tribal characteristics outside in their places of exile. And he says this includes defeating the forces of Edom and settling in the far north. The Ramban says it himself. They're in the land of Zarephath, meaning France, he says, and in the far north. Also, Rashi says it. Zarephath means France, says where the lost 10 tribes were settled, says Rashi. And Ramban also says the same thing, or in a different formulation, but in effect the same thing. And he says that is where the 10 tribes will give expression to who they are. And those who came into Judah, attached themselves to Judah, become part of Judah. They are no longer separate tribes. They have to become part of Judah and go along with what Judah needs to go along with. And he mentioned several tribes who came in and merged with the tribes of Judah. And we find in Archaeological, in the Talmud, it says that in principle, the Jewish people have minority representations of all of the tribes. That is Tosafot in the Talmud, Archaeological 32a. It says from each and every tribe a few returned. So these few were not enough to become the tribe in their own right, or been a part of a tribe. But so they were included amongst the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. So we have this. So too, apparently, the 10 tribes had their task to fulfill. And those Jews who went into exile with the 10 tribes were to become part of the 10 tribes and to be submerged amongst them and to find their destiny through the destiny of the individual tribes they lived amongst. So that is a point that fits what Nachmanides says, and that solves the equation. It solves the conundrum